What's going on, everybody? My name is James, and I love reading. I am here to talk about one of my favorite fantasy novels of all time, uh, Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Before I get into the story, I'm going to read the synopsis so you guys understand what's going on and a little bit more about the world and the setting. The kingdom of the Six Duchess is on the brink of civil war when news breaks that the crown prince has fathered a bastard son and is shamed into abdication. The child's name is Fitz. He is despised, raised in the castle stables. Only the company of the king's fool, the ragged children of the lower city, and his unusual affinity with animals provide Fitz with any comfort. To be useful to the crown, Fitz is trained as an assassin and to use the traditional magic of the Farseer family. But his tutor, allied to another political faction, is determined to discredit, even kill him. Fitz must survive, for he may be destined to save the kingdom. This book did a lot for me in the realm of fantasy. I was reading a whole bunch of Sanderson and a whole bunch like Robin Hobb. I mean, the way she does it is so masterful. Like she puts you there, and she sometimes has like these little historic anecdotes and will open up chapters with them and give you a very detailed, very interesting view of the Six Duchess, telling you where it's positioned, telling you some of its secret history, telling you about the Farseer family, telling you about why the Farseer family is in power, and when they're in power, how did they name their children? They name their children after different things like Fitz doesn't count, but his father's name was Chivalry. His uncles are named Regal and Verity. The king, his grandfather, is called King Shrewd. They are named after these different important things, and it is so interesting to see how each character embodies their name and in what way. Like, for example, his uncle Verity. Verity's like your favorite uncle, man. Like he's just awesome, and he's so cool, and he's so he's so dutiful. He is very he rides for his kingdom, whereas Regal is a spoiled little hoe. I mean, he's Regal embodies that name in the worst ways possible. Every negative connotation that you have of somebody who has a Regal, considers themselves regal or like of royal standing, and all the worst traits like the entitlement, the disrespect for people in other different classes. He embodies all of that, and it's such an interesting thing. I mean, everybody's name, everybody's story, everybody's backstory, everything. It's just wonderful. Fitz, his story even. Fitz, the way he's telling his story in this book, but he's telling the story when he is an older. It's implied he's like an older man. We don't know how old he is at the beginning, but he's definitely an older man, and he's telling his story, and there's this sense of not regret, but it's complicated how he feels. If you listen to his voice in here, if you listen to how it's written, and I also listen to the audiobook of this. So when you hear all of that stuff, it's like, wow, what type of tale is he going to weave here for us? What type of story is he going to tell? And he tells this very not necessarily complex in the first book, but it gets more and more complex as the books continue, and he sets everything up in here. But even with the setup, he tells you at the beginning, I cannot remember my mother's face. All I know is that I was taken from her. I remember the man who grabbed my arm and was taking me, and that's it. Like you pretty much see him go to the castle. Like you see him sit down with guards and stuff. But then you see it when Verity and Regal first show up, and they're younger, and they're like, this is chivalry. You hear in their tones, it kind of foreshadows who they are. Like Regal goes like, oh, this is you're chivalry's bastard. Wow, that's crazy. I can't believe chivalry, of all people. Isn't he supposed to be the king? And he has a royal bastard out here. And like, Verity's like, man, you look just like your dad. Like, like I said, Verity's everybody's favorite uncle. You know, from those people to the people that take in Fitz, such as the person who raised him, pretty much, Burge. Burge is this hard man. Like he's like this very tough, rough and gruff dude, but he's really a big ass softy. Like, he's a really, really big softy. Like everything he does, even though you might not agree with it, you understand what he's doing and why he's doing it, especially as the series progresses. For example, Fitz can use this magic, one of the different magic systems in this world, but like in this one, it's called the wit, and it allows you to communicate with animals on a like totally different level. Like you can understand them and they can understand you. Like you guys send thoughts back and forth between each other and could communicate totally fine, even though you're of different species. And it allows you to do some truthfully crazy stuff. But Fitz really doesn't get any experience dealing with that in this book. He's kind of steered away from it constantly. Like when Burge first, detects it, at the very beginning, with one of his first dogs that Fitz owns, or Fitz has as companions. He takes that dog and he literally just throws it out on the street, and he's like, Fitz, you can't do that. And Fitz is like, well, why? He's my friend. He's like, no, you don't understand. You can't do that. And of course, Burge is very heavy-handed, and he's trying to scare him away, and he's trying to, really make him, afraid. But it's only because Burge is scared for Fitz. He doesn't want Fitz to dig into that type of magic this early, especially, with the world and as crazy as it is. But still, he does it in a very kind of brutal way, brutish way. But that doesn't mean that he loves Fitz any less. It just goes to show you some of the severities of this world. I think Molly is introduced in this book. Fitz's longtime love interest is introduced in this book, and they meet each other when they're children. She's very she is very no nonsense. She doesn't take any shit from anybody. She especially doesn't take anything from Fitz. She's just like, she has a lot going on in her life, but despite everything that's going on, she perseveres. She's awesome like that. Who else can I think of in this book? There are just so many. Chade, the person who trains Fitz to be an assassin. Chade is eventually, spoilers, Chade is eventually revealed to be the king's brother. And Chade is like, hey, yo, listen, you swore yourself to the king, Fitz. Like, I'm gonna teach you how to do this thing. This is what you are. This is what we are. We are the hand of the king. We poison people sometimes. We have to like kill people sometimes. This is what we have to do. And Fitz isn't any good at it. He isn't any good at it, but he still perseveres. And he sees that even though Fitz might not be the best at this job, it's all he's got, and he's willing to embrace him at this moment in time and really help him, really help him maneuver through that palace life, everything. There's so much to this book. I could just gush on and on, but the last thing I want to talk about, the most important thing, is Robin Hobb's prose. My God, she captures the mundane so well, the average everyday things that you would take for granted, like touching a tree, or like breathing the air, or the sense of wherever you go, or when you feel the mugginess or the heat on you or whatever, or just going to the grocery store or whatever. The way she describes it in such a familiar and interesting way is just beautiful. I have yet to encounter another writer like that. For example, I'm just gonna read. Let me read the very beginning of this. Let me see. My pen. This is Fitz talking in the future. My pen falters, then falls from my knuckly grip, leaving a worm's trail of ink across Fedrin's paper. I have spoiled another leaf of the fine stuff in what I suspect is a futile endeavor. I wonder if I can write this history, or if on every page there will be some sneaking show of bitterness I thought long dead. I think myself cured of all spite, but when I touch pen to paper, the hurt of a boy bleeds out with the sea-spawned ink until I suspect each carefully formed black letter scabs over some ancient scarlet wound. My God, that is, oh man, that is fantastic. I just love the way she writes. I love how Fitz is characterized, even though I think he's an asshole sometimes. He is this very honest person. He's honest with the people he loves. He's honest with himself. He's honest with, he's honest with who he even though he everybody lies to themselves here and there, but he's honest with the people in front of him. He's like, I want to do this. And they're like, dude, you need to think about the implications of what you're doing. You need to consider your actions when you do them. You have to think about them. And he's just like, well, here's why I feel this way, because I feel like blah, blah, blah. And they're like, Fitz, you're not listening. You have to, and so Fitz is just like very hard-headed and stuff, but you understand why. You understand how he got to this point. You understand why he's so, in some ways, so closed off. But with the people he really loves, he is never afraid to step in and help them and be ready to fight for them and with them. Like, with everything they encounter in this book, from the raiders and the I don't remember what they're called, these people whose minds have just been destroyed by the raiders. It is such a fantastic start to a series, and I highly recommend you read this book. I love this book so much. I highly recommend you pick it up. My name is James, and I love reading books, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.